So in children, this is an area I need to dig into more. But one thing that we know is that enculturation of disgust is really important, and you do see a lot of variation from culture to culture of which foods are considered disgust, whether certain cultures eat insects or not, and kids don't have contamination sensitivity until before 3 to 5 years of age. Um, one of the sort of the theories is that to understand the notion of contamination, that if object A is a chair, or object A is a carrot and object B is an insect, the slightest contact between A and B can make A filthy. It's sort of an intuitive germ theory of disease. For that to develop and have that notion of contamination requires a certain mental model of how the world functions that kids probably don't have until a later age. So there may be certain cognitive limitations to be able to have a developed sense of disgust. There was an interesting study back in the 60s of about 53 feral humans who seemed to lack a sense of disgust and didn't have an aversion to feces and had very poor hygiene and things like that. So it's sort of unclear how if you were to how much of disgust is cultural and how much is instinctive. And we also see, for example, that fermented foods vary widely between cultures, what's considered palatable and not. And fermented foods use microorganisms to be created. We use microorganisms to make fermented foods, and so it's really not surprising that that some cultures that are brought up with these fermented foods, say stinky cheese, so they're like, okay, yeah, blue cheese, delicious, whereas the Chinese and a lot of Asian cultures think that cheese is just the most disgusting, revolting thing. But if you took raw fish from Japan and you went to Topeka, Kansas, then raw fish is considered extremely disgusting, or another fermented food.